Well, hello all. I'm Josh Russell. I'm the director of the creative writing program here at Georgia State University. And I'm happy to welcome you to what is technically the first reading in a new event series that the Department of English at Georgia State University is proud to launch. And we're calling it Muses. And if you've been to GSU, you might know what this means. And if you have gone to school at GSU or you work at GSU, you surely, especially in the English department, you surely know what this means. The Troy Moore Library, which is the English department's library and meeting area, has migrated from the building where the department used to be into a new building. When it was in the original building, there was a wall of windows that looked out onto downtown Atlanta. And one of the things that you could see at night was this wonderful glowing red neon sign that said Muses. It always seemed very appropriate because here were the poets and the fiction writers and the essayists giving these wonderful readings with this visible when you were standing at the podium reading and when you were in the audience. When we moved into the new building, sadly, the library is on the other side of a building, so we can't see Muses from the library, but a lot of us can see it from our offices. And it has remained a really important part of the downtown Atlanta landscape. What it is a former department store. George Muse actually opened this store in the late 1800s. It was a very successful Atlanta business. And in 1921, the downtown outpost for Muses opened. This is the building that has the neon sign that we can see when we look across Woodruff Park. So it seemed an appropriate thing to name our series after. The series, the first couple of events are going to be online events, and they will be both, some of them live streamed, some of them available on our YouTube channel, but you can go to our Facebook page and our Twitter feed to find links to the readings and to see news about the program and our students and our faculty. So I will open by thanking the Department of English, the Creative Writing Program, and the Troy Moore Library Endowment for sponsoring and supporting the Muses series. Tonight, as I said, is going to be our first reading. It's going to be a faculty reading. It will feature Professor Beth Gillis, Professor Josh Russell, and Professor Danielle Doolin. And let me begin by introducing Beth Gillis. A professor at Georgia State since 2000, Beth Gillis has published 4 books of poetry. Body Braille, which was named a 2012 book all Georgians should read. It was originally published by Iris Press in 2020. Sky, Blue Enough to Drink, which was a finalist for the Georgia Author of the Year Award. And that was published by Grayson Books in 2016. Spot in the Dark, which won the Journal Award from the Ohio State University Press and was published in 2005. And Bodies That Hum, which won the Gerald Cable First Book Award and was published by the Silverfish Review Press in 1999. She is also the author of 2 chapbooks, Matchbook and Balloon Heart, the latter of which won the Quentin R. Howard competition from Wind Press. Professor Gillis commutes between Atlanta, Georgia, and Erie, Pennsylvania, where her husband resides. Ladies and gentlemen, Beth Gillis.
Thank you so much, Josh. I just want to say what an honor it is to read with Josh and Danielle. I am blessed to work at Georgia State among many brilliant and wonderful scholars and teachers. And of course, Josh and Danielle are two of the finest. And I'm so happy to be a part of this reading with them. And thank you to my colleagues. There are a number of colleagues in the audience too. So thank you so much for coming, and thanks to everybody for taking time out of your Fridays, out of your Braves watching to, well, I guess the Braves haven't started yet. Go Braves. So anyway, thank you so much. I am going to mostly read from my most recent book, Body Braille. It came out in right after COVID. It came out, not linked in any way other than the year. But anyway, so I'll read mostly from Body Braille, but I'm going to actually start with my, unfortunately, my father died this year. He died in March, and I wanted to honor him I'm going to bookend with poems relating to my father, and then I'm going to read mostly the rest of it from Body Braille. So I'm going to start with ode to my father's prayers. My father was a Catholic, and he was a very devout Catholic. He went to church every Sunday. He went to church every holy day. And anyway, this is ode to my father's prayers. Our fathers upon our fathers, decades of Hail Marys and Hallelujah spoken or sung out loud or heard in the head like bright bells, for the job, for the sale, for the poor, for the world. My father, head bent, lips moving in sync to the priests or mouthing his own private hope for himself, for his parents, for my mother, brothers, me. Her patience about the car wreck, my brother's snapped collarbone, or my mother when she wanted what he didn't, a new faucet, a different house. For her life when she nearly died stripping paint from the wall, a spark exploding into fire, the wick of her pant leg. Prayers soft and bitter like eating canned peas, prayers like overripe fruit abundantly spilling their juices on the floor. Prayers he meant to say, or ones repeated like mantras. For the folded hands, for prayers mumbled out of habit, or just thought hard, the longing in the brain. Prayers of protection like umbrellas. Prayers replicating like DNA are the kind you can almost walk across, generous as sunlight across a field of newly cut hay. Prayers whose small heads we cradle like infants. In the end, his words all mumbles. In the end, barely audible. Still the ask, still the thanks. So many prayers, they might have changed the direction of the wind. So many, they should have carried him. They must have to somewhere. So that's, thank you, Dustin. One of the, I chose to read this first poem because of for the graduate students I teach who have been such an inspiration to me and so brilliant and hardworking and fantastic to work with. And I taught a class during the summer, and actually Carrie Scott Wilkerson, who's here, was in that class, and it was brutal. I asked the students to write a poem every day, 5 days a week for 6 weeks during the summer, and they also had to comment on each other's poems. It was completely nuts. And they did it. And many of those poems have been published. It was an amazing experience. And I wrote this poem during that time. So anyway, I'm reading it kind of as a tribute to the graduate students. who I currently work with, you know, I've worked with in the past. And this is called My Closest Brush with Anarchy. It has nothing to do with graduate students, but anyway, it was written during that period of time. Briefly, in grad school, I had 3 lovers at the same time. One married, one in another state, and one who knew but didn't care. Terrified, but so alive I couldn't sleep. I felt constantly short of breath, my legs thin from the miles I ran to keep from crazy. Thoughts in my head tumbling like numbers in a bingo wheel, even as cotton sleeves were peeled from arms like the skins of fruit, even as tongues slid along the edges of edges, even as they rose and fell like a car on a Ferris wheel that runs all night, light panning the sky as I lifted from one lonely space to the next, thinking, love, love, love. Thank you. And this is a poem called Made Bed, kind of in keeping, similar theme. And it's a villanelle, as you will hear. He could have been my lover again that night. A whisper of dress lifting over ears, the tie unknotting the sheets predictably white, the fumbling urgency leaving us breathless, light from lust tinged by guilt, the vanished years. He could have been my lover again that night, confusing past with present, desire with flight, image with image, elbow, breastbone, shears, the tie unknotted, the sheets ironically white, entangled our voices pitching like a kite in a storm with vowels, bleats, stifled swears. He could have been my lover again that night, if the night were only and alone, if right and right had not had different names. Affairs, the ties unknotting, the sheets iconically white and damp, and something's broken, lost, bright as shattered glass, as side-lit, backstaged mirrors. He could have been my lover again that night. The ties unknit, the sheets shamelessly white. Thanks. So my husband is in the audience, and this is a poem to honor Tom, who is just an amazing support to me and a brilliant scholar in his own right. And this is called Second Marriage, which ours was. The day you proposed, the crows nesting beside your house screamed human screams. You handed me rings lodged in a box that looked like a miniature house. We ran 6 miles, both of us thinner from worry and surprise. I wept and joked about divorce. My tongue turned wood, my brain a tilt-a-whirl, Cuisinart. We toasted with bourbon. What to eat to celebrate a second engagement? Bologna? Hold my hand and close your eyes. How to even think of a veil, a clutch of tulips or begonias. Grandmother's wedding dress has tiny holes chewed by mice or moths. In July, you'll wear your only sports coat, all wool. The courthouse steps strewn with trash will snag a witness down the street, pissing in the holly. Second marriage. So much better and yet so much less glamorous. You know, I was going to read a poem about poverty, but I think I'm going to read a poem about shit instead. And this is a poem for the politicians who are constantly annoying me. So this is called Levels of Shit, and you will see why I dedicate it for the politicians. Indeed, I used to muck stalls as a job. I had a horse and I had to help clean the stalls to pay the board. So levels of shit. Winters, the round brown balls of manure would fall steaming in untidy piles. The horses, unperturbed, their noses in a bucket of sweet feed or grazing the dusty floors of their stalls, simply lifted their tails and let loose. Later, those same stones, frozen, thrown well and hard, might have shattered someone's window. It was easy to trip on one, random rolled into the barn aisle, innocent icy rocks of shat grain we shoveled or pitchforked into wheelbarrows, dumped in a pile, their fragrance diminished in the sub-zero temperatures. Though the mountains we raised before the tractor hauled them away were impressive. The horses continued to eat and excrete, and we kept scooping. We didn't worry what came out of assholes. We recycled that shit. Something now I can't imagine as I sit watching this screen, and it comes from another hole with no way to pile or pass along or diminish. I love the snaps. Thank you, guys. So one of my dearest friends is actually a friend from way long ago, and we met when I was 6 and she was 5 in first grade. And it turned out she became a writer. She became a fiction writer and a poet. And this is a poem called A Friendship, and it's about that. It's about that friendship, or at least about the beginnings of that friendship, which happily still continues. A friendship. Slicing the stem of a plant that bled a white froth the color of milk. Burying a dead mouse in an old shoebox, how we read from the Bible, making the sign of the cross. Pedaling hard without helmets down steep Sylvania Drive. Mouths open, unbrushed, knotted hair flying back. So much screaming, licking snot drips from upper lips, filthy hands digging cookies from the jar. Playing dress up, mom's necklace snapping from our hands, the pearls rolling beneath her bed and heavy dresser. Huge pink welts from mosquitoes. That beach trip, sunburned so bad we rubbed ice against our cheeks. Smashing together Barbie and Ken's ungenital nakedness, trying to flush Ken down the toilet. Sleepovers, talking so long and hard we'd fall asleep still mumbling. After your move, not wanting to even drive past your house, my bus trip to see you beside a man so fat my smashed arm lost its feeling. Writing letters about school and boys, annoying new friends, summer and Christmas visits, faces pressed against glass, weeks lost like a wave of a hand, that first metallic taste of lonely. Thank you. So this book is broken up into 5 sections, and the first 4 sections begin with these poems that are about losing one of the senses. And I have this odd obsession with thinking about that. I mean, I feel so lucky that I have all of my faculties still, knock on something. But anyway, I think about that. I think about how fortunate I am to have all my faculties. But so anyway, these poems that's preface each section are about losing one of the senses. And I'm going to read When I Am Blind. When I am blind, colors will smell of lemon and apricot and sage. With my fingertips, I will read your body the way a cook reads the skin of ready fruit. Delicious will be my paradigm. I will ache for trees, the sieve of a young moon severing the dark. The moon will live inside me then, planting its feet in the pit of me. It will shine through my mouth, warm-tongued, electric. I will wish for nothing, consumed by memory, rock, churned butter, fur, vermilion. I will clothe myself in shades I'd never recognize. Only birds will know the sky the way I do. All right, I think I'm gonna, I'm feeling like I'm taking a long time. I'm gonna read one more poem from the book. I'm gonna read the final poem from the book, which, so it comes at the end of a sequence of sonnets about a man who's lost his wife. So the last poem is kind of hopeful. I don't know. It's kind of about the persistence of the heart. So soldier heart. When you lose your heart, its impossible drum continues filling ventricles 100,000 times a day, 2,000 gallons of blue type A siphon in and out of its 4-chambered machine, threading through more than 60,000 miles of veins, from lung to tissue, tongue to brain. You stand despite that you can't stand, despite that your unwilling hand touches the casket's closed lid. This fist bumps like victory in your chest. So I'm going to end with this. This is another poem from my father, and it's newer poem. Actually, the first and last poems are newer poems, and it has an epigraph. I somehow have discovered that I love looking at large slabs of rock, large slabs of granite. It gives me great pleasure. So anyway, I was at the countertop warehouse, and this poem emerged, and it's in 2 parts. 1, the slabs of stone are so heavy we walk past them in whispers, run fingers along their surfaces as if they are bodies we might undress. Their dark is the dark of earth tongues and lava, a splash of red, a long white elbow splayed across a leathered block of onyx. The stones make me hungry and wishing for more arms to take them all in. The stones are like the faces of old men and women who become what they have seen, fire and storm settled into pores, their glazed, cracked smiles. 2, the shock when I walked in. He was the color of sky at dawn, my father, his skin nearly diaphanous. We could almost see his bones. He was so nearly cloud as he lay there still in the bed. I would never hear him speak again. My father not speaking, not telling a joke, not asking anything, just there in the bed, becoming sky. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you. Josh Russell is going to be our next reader, and I will introduce him. Josh came to Georgia State in 2004 after teaching at the University of Florida and Tulane University. He's published 3 novels, Yellow Jack, My Bright Midnight, and A True History of the Captivation, Transport to Strange Lands, and Deliverance of Hannah Gutentag. 3 chapbooks of very short prose and more than 100 short stories and essays, and his work has earned him fellowships from the National Endowment for the Arts and the Breadloaf Writers Conference. King of the Animals Stories is his most recent book. Please welcome Josh Russell.
Hey, it's me again. One of the things that I've always envied poets for is that they have Post-it notes on their books. And so they have like a plan and they're going to go. Or I also really envy the people who are like, let me read from my first book and now from my most contemporary book. So I'm very pleased that I now have Post-it notes in this book, which is my newest one. So I will attempt to do this. Hold on, let me get myself so I'm comfortable here. I'm going to read you several stories, but they're very short. So I hope you enjoy them. The first one's called Two Photographs by Walker Evans. There's a Walker Evans photograph of a man standing in a barber shop doorway, his face half covered in lather, half shaved. In the window, the perplexed barber holds his razor over an empty chair. The Harlequin man glares right into the lens. His hands rest on his hips. The man is my father, and this is the story. Evans took a photograph of my 17-year-old sister, Lillian. In it, she lies nude on a bed covered by a simple white sheet. Her hair is wild on the pillow, and her left foot casts a sharp shadow. Her legs are parted. She showed the picture to me the day she packed, though I was a 13-year-old boy and knew nothing. The sight of her naked was shocking and beautiful. While she filled a musée bag with her things, she told me how the photograph came to be taken. She and Evans were lovers, and one morning when my father and I assumed she was shopping on Canal, Evans took a playful snapshot as she lay in his bed. They had just made love, and she pointed to the smile she wore in the picture as proof she was happy there with Walker. Evans left town shortly after the photograph was taken, and she was supposed to take a bus on the sly to meet him in Valdosta. The last days he was in New Orleans, Evan feared murder by my father's hand. Searching her bureau for forbidden Lucky Strikes, my father had happened upon the picture of his daughter basking in a bliss whose source no one could fail to recognize. The day after, mid-shave in a Royal Street barber's, he spotted Evans photographing a grocery. When he hurried to the door and yelled his name, Evans turned with his camera to his eye and saw my father through the lens. The composition was too good to waste. At the base of the barber's striped pole, a black cat. In the window, combs and scissors and jars of antiseptic. His lover's father scowling with his face half masked by shave cream. So he snapped the shutter before hightailing it down Royal, cutting down Pirates Alley, and through Jackson Square. To this day, the picture of my father is tacked to the wall in his front room. A Western Union boy brought it the day after Lillian left, 2 days after my father received half a shave. There was no note, only Evans's studio stamp on the back of the print. So far as I know, I am one of only 4 people who ever saw the picture of Lillian, Evans, my father, and Lillian being the other 3. Why show it to me, I asked, amazed she had. Love, she told me, is the most important thing in the world. Everyone will admit to that, but I want to tell you something they won't. Love is the body. Believe the body, she said. That's why I'm showing it to you. Post-it note number 2. This is called The Parrot. There's a section of this collection that has suburban folk tales that are based very loosely on Italo Calvino's Italian folk tales. So this is one of them. The Parrot. She was an only child with no brothers or sisters, nor did she have any playmates. So they made her a doll the same size as herself, with a face and clothes exactly like her own. Everywhere she went, the doll went too. At school, her teachers and classmates treated the doll as if it were a real child, an 11-year-old twin, cheerier and more polite than the girl. The doll was a better speller, a better reader. On the playground, the doll was a daredevil on the swings, while the girl worried about broken bones and looking like a loser. At home, her parents got divorced and nothing changed except neither wore a wedding ring. The girl found in the Goodwill box in the garage a self-help book that suggested children be given a nice gift before the divorce was announced. Thus the doll, she figured. It was never moody or disrespectful, and it never complained about what was put on its plate at dinner. At school, Kenny stopped paying attention to her and started paying attention to the doll. It was Spirit Week, and the girl made a point of wearing black leggings and a dark brown t-shirt on crazy color days. But the doll dressed like a freaking clown, so much for matching. The girl cheated on a spelling test, got a better score than the doll, watched the teacher frown at the doll. After dinner, the doll came into the rumpus room with a puzzled look on its face. It had walked in on Mom and Dad. The girl attempted to explain the basics of sex. The doll looked even more puzzled. How? It asked. And the girl fetched from the Goodwill box The Joy of Sex, which one of her parents had hidden in a cookbook dust jacket. The doll flipped pages, asked, "Does Kenny know about this?" The girl saw the doll tap its crotch blank as if someone had erased from it what the book pictured. The next morning, she dressed in the PJ's day outfit the doll had laid out for itself the night before. Bathrobe pajamas patterned with the faces of cats, fuzzy slippers. Without comment, the doll put on the drab daytime clothes the girl handed it. At school, the girl grinned at Kenny and he grinned at her. The doll sulked in homeroom, stuttered when asked in language arts to read aloud from Moby Dick. There is a woe wisdom that is woe, but there is a woe that is madness. They were walking home when a dark sedan pulled up beside them and a fat man said, "Your mother told me to come and get you. There's been an accident." The doll opened the door and got in, but the girl bolted. She'd seen the film strip about strangers in cars every year since kindergarten. She pretended she didn't know where the doll had gotten off to. Her parents stapled flyers to the telephone poles, the doll's face smiling blankly beside Xeroxed snapshots of lost dogs and cats. The girl imagined the pervert's disappointment and laughed. "Are you the doll?" her mother asked. In her voice was both worry and hope. I'm glad Mark Noble's here because I read that Moby Dick reference. It was kind of for him. I was hoping he'd be here. Okay. Black Cat. Remember prom? Boutonniere pressed flat during slow dances as if it had been preserved in a book. Remember heat radiating through rented pants, through creaking tulle skirts, more than heat of first sex. Remember blood on the sheet, the twitch of pleasure that shook her. Remember college? Saturday nights becoming Sunday mornings, coffee and the Post in bed, comics and front page kicked to the floor, sliding and crashing like water. Remember the breakup? Remember hours of pool with physics majors who could not lose? Remember running into her at Sibby's Halloween party senior year? Remember being naked in the Honda in the parking lot, rain like code on the roof, windows fogging and then glowing as dawn broke? Remember reconciling and then having to eat two Thanksgiving dinners, one with her parents, one with yours? Remember the Christmas tree blown into the middle of the street in which the black cat played? Remember laughing at her while she stood at the second-story window, clad only in a blanket, conversing in Spanish with Mormons, too polite to ignore the bell? Remember driving away to Baton Rouge, long lists of vows trailing? Remember the second breakup soon thereafter? Remember sadness and loneliness, like possessions taking up space in the room? Remember your birthday falling on Thanksgiving? The trip north, how she gave herself like a gift? Remember Christmas? Remember the night in February she begged to be taken back and you standing barefoot on the tiny, rusted landing, looking at the alley's luminous shell gravel and listening to her voice being pulled thin by 1,000 miles of telephone wire, sure that prospects for love were numerous in that weird city, said no. I feel like one of my students. I keep looking down. I have a stopwatch going on my phone to make sure I don't take up too much time. Post-it note number 4. This is getting good. This post-it note thing is awesome. Those dogs. My daughter is married to a kind-hearted boy who loves dogs. Into their home, he brings dogs no one will adopt from the shelter where he volunteers. Unlovable mutts, old and cranky or young and not house trained, as well as an alarming variety of abused purebreds. Sometimes there are a dozen dogs in their modest ranch house. Once there were 19. Some end up adopted by someone else, some die, but all those dogs are quickly replaced. Too many dogs, if you asked me, but I'm not asked, and so I keep this opinion to myself. The smell cannot be ignored. The dogs are all ugly. When it became clear this wasn't some altruistic phase her husband was going through, and there would always be a pack of defective dogs living in my daughter's house, I wondered what was wrong with her. Didn't she comprehend how nuts it was to have that many dogs, all of them fucked up? Then I worried her husband married her and loves her because, like the dogs, my daughter is defective, is kin to skittish inbreeds who can't hold their piss when the doorbell rings. Then I wondered if it was my fault she's so. It's painful to see the dogs whose puppy collars have been left to tighten around their necks as they mature, cutting into their skin, leaving collars of scars. Or maybe my daughter's not broken, but the problem is that for some reason I can't look at her and her sweet husband and their weird happiness and think simply and honestly, good for them and for those dogs. Verso. So some of these stories are very story-like. There are a couple that are longer, a couple of 20-page ones. There's one that's like 35 pages, I guess. And then on the other end, there are these very lyrical, I hope, things that are just barely stories. Verso. The USA is too new for Baedeker's legends of cathedrals built atop mosques, built atop temples. The closest we come are TV shows and movies about what happens when a subdivision or 7-Eleven or parking lot is built over a Native American burial ground. In Denver, I tried to find daguerreotypes in antique stores and was told no one in Colorado circa 1840 was allowed the vanity of having her portrait made. Even our oldest cities are all surface. Are visions of their evolutions just visions of our aging selves we see flashing in their shop windows and puddles? The city of the last night with one lover and the city of the first night with another, the city of leaving in what feels like defeat and the city of returning in what feels like triumph, the city of madness and the city of sanity. It's a single city. On the verso of an old postcard is a message written in a fin de siècle hand that fades to sepia, while the recto shows a landscape unchanged. The other fun thing about this Post-it note deal and like not just reading a chunk of a novel is that I kind of forget what I've set up to read. So like I flip to the Post-it note and it's a surprise. And this is the last story I wrote before the book was published. And it seemed very strange to me later after we had to start doing what we were doing. And I hope you'll understand why. It's called Negative Capability. After her wife dies, cancer, brain, sudden, she watches lectures her wife recorded for her students, videos she'd never seen while Pam was alive. They're about romantic poetry, Coleridge, Shelley, et al. And the university at which her wife had been an associate professor is still using them to teach undergraduates, which at first makes her furious. But the university's shamelessness means Pam's immortal online. So whenever she worries she's forgotten her wife's voice, she can watch a lecture about George Gordon Lord Byron and hear Pam's voice. Or at least hear a version of it, a version a little more formal and careful than the voice her wife used for calls to say she was on her way home from campus, and for questions regarding when the dog had been out to pee last, and for arguments about spending $10 a day on oat milk lattes. She recognizes there's a danger she'll forget that voice, her wife's true voice, if she listens too often to Pam's associate professor voice, but she can't help herself. In one video, Pam stutters while lecturing on De Quincey, and she's sure that inside the stammer, she can hear her wife's true voice. Then she wonders if the tumor caused the stutter, and for a few days she can't watch that video. But then she has to hear again her wife say, De Quincey. The dog paces, disturbed, looks for Pam in the kitchen, the bathroom, so she plugs in earphones and listens to her wife's voice close in her ears, close as it had been when they lay side by side in the bed they bought with the money from the teaching award Pam won just 6 months before she died. After the De Quincey video, she listens to her talk about Keats and feels guilty for not caring about De Quincey, about romantic poetry, about so many of the things Pam cared about. She wants to write a paper about negative capability, to get it all wrong, to receive a pity C-. She wants to go to Pam's office at the university and watch her write helpful hints in the margins in a hand elegant and lovely as her true voice. She wants to listen to her wife explain her failures, tell her how to fix her mistakes. All right, how am I doing on time? Perfect. Last Post-it. Truck's tire outside Murfreesboro, Tennessee, 1936. A retread's lost reptilian hide fools him. In the dark, Walker takes it for a road-killed gator and pulls the Ford over to investigate. Forehead against the cool curve of the steering wheel, he realizes what a double fool he is. No alligator lives 30 miles south of Nashville, And the girl he's told him to meet in Georgia doesn't deserve jilting. He considers the tire, illuminated by the headlamps, so he won't have to consider the girl. Its tail curls off into the ditch. Beyond it is country darkness. He rubs his nose and smells her. He hasn't washed his hands, and even the perfume of breakfast's bacon cannot cover that smell. He closes his eyes and sees the picture he took of her while she sat on a bench in Coliseum Park, plaid school skirt hiding her knees. A week later, that same skirt was folded neatly on a chair when he took a picture of her naked and smiling on his bed. He sees that picture too. There'd been idle talk on the subject of the institution of marriage. His face white with Burma shave, her father chased him down Royal Street, brandishing a pair of barber's shears, yelling, "Evans, goddamn it, I'll stick you." Walker wrote the address of a rooming house in Valdosta on the back of a postcard and told her he'd see her there. The address was a fiction. He had no idea if Valdosta held an Oleander Street. The tire, he reminds himself, the tire that looks like an alligator. And when he glances up, he sees the last light drain from the headlamps. Dark silence when he turns the key. Cicadas ratchet mockingly. The coffee he's sipped from a vacuum bottle to fight off sleep begins to fail him. He lights a match to check his watch and is spooked by the reflection of the small flame in the side mirror. It's past midnight, hours until any filling station will open, and he has no idea how long the walk to the nearest will be. The blanket he wraps around himself smells like New Orleans, mildew and whiskey and gasoline. Walker shifts on the seat and can't find comfort. The darkness is the same with his eyes open or closed, and pictures he's made of the girl appear either way. He sees her in a line of girls in plaid skirts waiting at the window of a snowball stand, sees her asleep in a chair, feet on the windowsill, sees her cooking eggs, wearing only his undershirt. A tire that looks like an alligator, he tells himself. The pines, skinny, and at their bases, bound to one another with blackberry bush barbed wire. The ditch calico with wildflowers. A filling station with a knee-high sign nailed over a broken window. Thank you. All right. So now I get to introduce Danielle, which is very good. I'm very happy to introduce Danielle. Danielle Cadena Doolin came to GSU in 2020. She's very recently arrived, and we're so happy she's here. She came here after teaching at Willamette University and the University of Cincinnati. She's published a memoir. I'm not doing so well. I managed to actually pronounce words correctly while I was reading. Now I can't even read an introduction. Sorry. She has published a memoir, The Riots, which won the AWP Prize in Creative Nonfiction, and 2 poetry collections, Lovely Asunder, which won the Miller-Williams Arkansas Poetry Prize, and Our Emotions Get Carried Away Beyond Us, winner of the Barrow Street Book Prize. She has been the recipient of an Oregon Literary Fellowship and an Ohio Arts Council Individual Excellence Award, and a J.C. and Ruth Hall's Poetry Fellowship from the Wisconsin Institute for Creative Writing. She is co-creator and host of Lit from the Basement, a literary podcast and radio show. Danielle?
Thank you, Josh. And thank you, Beth. And thank you both for reading with me. And Thank you all for being here this evening, Friday night. Hopefully we're not interrupting too much of your plans or, just getting revved up here in the evening. I have decided this evening to just to read all new work because I have a bunch of it, and also because I have, I guess at this point in time, I'm feeling tired of reading from my books. So I decided to narrow it down to poems that have been published recently or are forthcoming, and so that's what I'm going to read tonight. I feel like I'm like honing in on this third collection of poems. Like any minute now, I'm going to write that last poem. It's gonna make everything perfect. But in the meantime, still kind of toiling away at it. This opening one that I'm going to read here is going to be out in Plowshares. I don't think there's anything explanatory I need to say about it. Oh, except for there are a lot of poems in my manuscript called Self-Doubt, which may be indicative of my overall mood. This one's Self-Doubt with Dead Lupine. After summer, I clear away the vulgar corpses from my flower beds, coarse vinca, shriveled marigold, and molding lupine drained of color by an infestation of aphids that sucked its sweet sap dry. I learned too late. My son, who spurned my breast as an infant, still refuses most food. He's skinny, nothing like these soft-bellied bugs almost mewling at the clusters of candy-colored blooms. I knew the first time I drove away from him that our bond would fail, my ducts dry up. The certainty didn't assuage me, my weaned breasts weeping all week. There's not much there, I used to say to boys who fumbled in my shirt, believing we should share in disappointment. I throttle the lupine, ripping it from the roots, remembering the June it astonished me with its rising, growing wild along highways amid evergreens and ferns, where I witnessed its violet zeal, its art to thrive. It should be alive. The second one is a little bit strange. I call it, it's one of several in the manuscript that are remixes. This one has lines from Keats's Ode to a Nightingale, which is probably brazen of me to have lines from Keats in here, but the poem overall is fragmented. And so I wish that I had thought to show you, but too late now. Anyways, it was published, I think last year on poets.org, which I was like, yes, because I've been wanting to be published on that for like 20 years. So that was like a celebration for me in of itself, was one poem. At any rate, I wrote this, I think that it was the New York Times that came out. Well, there's been so many articles about, the state of our planet dying, climate change, global warming. And I was really upset about it and couldn't sleep and kept checking on my children. And then this poem came out of this. Remix with a few lines from Keats. My throat is dry, a drowsy numbness pains. My sense as though obscured by smoke. I drive on roads dividing patchwork farmland, fences, wide-eyed llamas, perpetual surprise. After a dream, I sip water in the dark. I don't want to sleep. My husband breathing deeply, my children twisting in their beds, smoke rising from the fields, end of harvest raising. I lift the rock, find a family of woodlice curled away from me, sleeping or pretending to sleep. Hemlock lacing the road's shoulders, my too dry eyes. The tender babies are paler than their parents, little ghosts. Rolled in on themselves, my children are sleeping. When I lift the blanket, when after the dream, I smoke in the dark, no bird singing, nothing to ode. The sharp scent of pine, wet soil, beast musk, rain, the dull opiate of things. What will outlive us? I turn on the screen, a panel of men in a void, screaming, cornflowers curling into rust. I breathe in smoke, fists curled shut, the green of marijuana fields, the pungent scent of bodies curled in sleep, as if sleep were a cure. 1 minute pass, and Lethe words. Hear that crackling? Pine cones dropping like heavy flames, glaciers splitting, howling ghosts. What earth will be left for? My children cry out in their sleep. Dark room filling with the smoke I exhale, hills roiling. The screaming stays while the screen goes dark. I can't see it disappearing. To thy high requiem. My throat is dry. Do I wake or sleep? I don't want to wake. Let's see. Ooh, should I read the really long one? I had this planned out, but now I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, it's 8 o'clock. It just always happens, right? We get started a little bit late. This one was published recently in the Kenyon Review, and it has an epigraph here from the New York Times, April 6, 2019. It says, it may take federal officials 2 years to identify what could be thousands of immigrant children who were separated from their families at the southern United States border, the government said in court documents filed on Friday. It's called the uncertainty principle. 1. Only so much can be known about a particle at any given moment. There is a limit, Heisenberg stated, to the precision with which one can measure the exact position and momentum of a particle. This is not a statement about a technological dearth. Rather, the uncertainty arises because the act of measuring affects the object being measured. The only way to measure the position of something is by using light, but on the subatomic scale, the interaction of light with the object inevitably changes the object's position and direction of travel. 2. Only so much can be known about a person at any given moment, a refugee child led into a dim tunnel. There is a limit, an official stated, to the precision with which one can measure the exact position of a child in sleep, how he turns beneath his metallic blanket, the watchful focus of cameras and police dogs sniffing the rank neglect of his body. This is not a statement about a technological dearth. Rather, the uncertainty arises because the act of measuring affects the perspective of lawmakers. The only way to measure the position of lawmakers is by using light, but on a subatomic scale. The lawmakers' interaction with light inevitably changes their position and direction of blame. 3. Only so much can be given to a child whose parents have tried to save them from a fragmented life, one of violence and thirst, and men whose howling greed for power and blood surpasses all belief in light. There is a machete swinging wildly through what is left of the burning forest, but there is a limit to who we can allow in given our scarcity of clean water and cash. This is not a statement about a financial dearth, only a way to slide the frame away from the child in the corner, arms crossed across her chest because she has forgotten her mother's face, and the face of the armed guards only offer revulsion. She is 3. 4. I know where the lost children go. Lo sé a dónde van los niños desaparecidos. I know where the lost children go. Lo sé a dónde van los niños desaparecidos. La tierra está tan vacía como el cielo. Only so much can be known about knowing. Nuestros niños son tragados por oscuridad. They go into the mouths of wolves. 5. Some say the lost children are the lucky ones. Their inability to be reached, no cause for alarm, and the focus of these children who are likely with family displaces our focus on the children detained. On a mundane level, the lulling effect of safety contaminates our ability to see. See? No, look here, where the halfways are pressed together so close against the chain link they can't lie down beneath the Paseo del Norte bridge, where citizens drive, their eyes narrowed by an influx of light, the unrelenting sun blurring their vision. As they pass over, they almost hear the unsettled breathing, the indeterminate notes of a dying song, but lose the frequency when they reach the other side. They shrug. They can't be certain of what they heard, though it haunts them, as if they lift cups of coffee to their tender tongues, which they burn, sipping, then spilling the dark drink on their clean clothes, marking themselves with awkward inattention, which makes them so resigned. They yawn long toward the empty skied windshield, their exposed throats revealing a silent dangle of flesh, the uvula, which grows between what is uncertain and what has been left unsaid. What am I doing? That was a super long one. Okay. Oh, I have so much violence in my poetry. Here's some more violence. This one's called Another Romance. It's like, there's a conglomerate character in here. I'm saying this because there's somebody in the audience who may recognize themselves partly in this, but it's not all you. It's you and another person. We can talk about it later. Another romance. He had a gun, you told me years later, leaning toward the windshield. I drove your black truck through the Columbia Gorge. He got it out once when we were on the roof and just shot toward the city, toward nothing. The sun was going out in your face like a daffodil, and the road curved wildly between a cliff and a river. Dusk made the water a little gold. It's like he couldn't help it. He just aimed toward the street and fired. I started screaming, which made him laugh. We'd just come from a mountain wedding when neither of us were brides and the air was too cold for the dresses we wore. I put the heat on full blast and made a move to take off my coat, so you grabbed the wheel. The fabric of your blue dress both clung to and fell from your slender torso like water. How did you not know he was crazy? I asked. You glanced at me, your eyes full of champagne, said, I knew it a little, and gave the wheel back. Daffodil is the wrong flower to describe you, but because we met when we were children, I always see your child face beneath your face, your child body beneath your body. You rolled down the window, asked me to drive careful so you could lean way out. I said, I thought you were cold. You said, yes, but I don't mind it. I thought of how he once woke you by slapping your face. You leaned your wind chime body from the window, your long hair whipping the side of the truck. I knew if you uncurled your fist into palms, your red nails would surely kiss the road. I got 3 more here. And this one is forthcoming in the next issue of Iron Horse Literary Review. Thanks to Jeffrey Davis. I see you. Thanks for showing up. This is another self-doubt poem. This one's called Self-Doubt with Invisible Tiger. It's there in our dimly lit hall, standing between myself and my small son, or so he says, petting the air. The beast growls softly, opens its mouth to yawn, stretches its hind legs, lowers its head to its paws. The tiger is sleepy, my son says, closing his eyes. I brood on what to feed it in lieu of my own legs or the legs of my children. Is it friendly? I ask. My son shakes his head. It's in a bad mood. It's probably peevish from feeling unreal, inspiring no panic, no awe. I used to walk through cities with thighs so taut men would bless me as I went. The thin layer of oil on my cheeks seen as a pretty sheen. Even then, I knew what they wanted from me most was my silence. The beast's teeth worry the soft pelt of a dream antelope. My son jumps with glee. Should I keep it, name it fret or vex or total eclipse of the heart? Let it sit on the sofa beside me, lick my weary feet. The meat is gone. The tiger stirs, purrs as it gnaws on memory's stripped bone. The penultimate poem here is a villanelle, the only successful villanelle I've ever written. While my colleague Beth is amazing at them, this is the only one that's ever worked out for me. So, and for those of you who don't know what a villanelle is, it's a strict, originally French form adapted into English that has only 2 rhymes and it has 2 repeating phrases that come out periodically throughout the poem. So because of all this repetition, the form is, it fits nicely with a dramatization of repetitive thinking or obsessive thinking. And this one's called Invoice for R. We were too young to imagine regret, believing our lives a series of scenes written by us with no ending, no debt to repay for the way we lived, the sweat never cooling, the sky a constant between. We were too young to believe in regret, though we lived in the dust-worn sublets of a city that coughed and staggered, unclean toward the train, oblivious to how the debt of time can annul a dream. While the violet winter light touched the tangled sheen we made together, too pale and lean to regret the silence we idealize, the faint alphabet of our breathing, unable to replace, it seems, the words we didn't say or write. There's a debt in the light that surrounds your silhouette, an unfolding of what I could not have foreseen. Why didn't I stay? I was young. I didn't know regret. Grew with time, with memory, and indelible debt. And the very last. So this last one, I feel like I need to give some context for, and first say, I'm fine. I often write to my younger self who suffered from severe depression. And for many years, I was really fixated on suicidal ideation. So, and I don't assume my experience is unique. Statistics will tell you exactly the other way. Despite this state, a lot of people feel this way, though a lot of people who are feeling this way feel utterly alone, right? And having over the years recovered from that, but also lost more than a few friends from suicide, I wanted to write something that might address the subject. And that poem is this. It's called Call. And this is the last one. Thank you so much for your attention. It lies dormant in you, some kind of happiness. Even through the morning rain, the mundane turn out of the drive, onto the road toward work, the keening daffodils rising green and gold from the mud. Even when the sidewalk's gray leads into your chest, a solid, immovable light is waiting. All those years, I believed joy impossible. All those years, I swerved down dim-lit highways, the blur of headlights swirling around me, or wandered weeping to the edge of a precipice, or walked into a body of water, daring myself to breathe in. I'm speaking plainly now because I don't want to invite confusion or to remain alone in this bright field. Step away from the edge and turn toward me. I see you. I know that ache in your chest means that you want to live. All done.